The Galactic Federation armada burned through the remnants of the 𝗕𝗲 Dominion's last fleet, plasma fire turning shattered hulls into molten scrap. On the bridge of the flagship Eternity's Blade, Admiral 𝗕𝗲 allowed himself a rare smile. The war was over. The Dominion had fallen. The galaxy was theirs. "Signal the fleet," he said, voice booming with triumph. "The 𝗕𝗲 are no more. Today, we stand unchallenged." Cheers erupted across the comms. Hundreds of ships, the finest in the Federation, glittered like a swarm of victorious fireflies. They had crushed empires, broken warlords, and now, at last, peace would reign under their rule. Then Lieutenant 𝗕𝗲, ever the cautious one, cleared her throat. "Admiral, there's still the matter of the Terran Confederacy." 𝗕𝗲 scoffed. "The humans? They're barely spacefaring. Their ships are slow, their weapons crude. What threat could they possibly pose?" 𝗕𝗲 hesitated. "There are rumors. Their vessels don't match any known design principles. Their refusal to join the Federation is irrelevant," 𝗕𝗲 interrupted. "If they resist, we will sweep them aside like the others." A proximity alert blared. "Unknown contacts emerging from the outer system," a sensor officer shouted. 𝗕𝗲 turned, expecting pirates or Dominion stragglers. Instead, the view screen flickered as a single massive warship tore into real space. It was ugly, blocky, angular, devoid of the sleek curves of Federation design. Its hull was a patchwork of armor plating, its weapons blunt and brutal. The bridge crew laughed. "Is this their great defense? A relic?" Then the ship fired. No plasma beam. No glittering missile. Just a thunderclap of raw kinetic force. A Federation cruiser, shielded, armored, the pride of their fleet, exploded like a glass bottle hit by a hammer. Silence. Then another alert. Then another. More signatures. Dozens. Hundreds. Emerging from the void, surrounding them. The comms crackled to life. A human voice, calm, unyielding. "This is Admiral Cole of the Terran Confederate Navy. You have violated sovereign human space. Prepare to be boarded." 𝗕𝗲's blood turned to ice. The galaxy had just learned its first lesson about humanity. They didn't fight fair. And they never, ever lost. The Federation fleet scrambled into battle formations, plasma cannons charging, shields flaring to full strength. Admiral 𝗕𝗲 barked orders, his voice sharp with disbelief. "All vessels, focus fire on that lead dreadnought. Burn it down." A storm of energy lanced across the void, brilliant, lethal, the pinnacle of Galactic Federation firepower. The blast struck the Terran warship's hull, and splashed harmlessly against its blackened armor. No scorch marks. No breach warnings. Just silence. Then the human ship returned fire. No elegant beams. No shimmering torpedoes. Just a deafening roar as a tungsten slug the size of a ground car erupted from its main cannon. It crossed the distance in a blink, punching clean through a Federation battleship's shields like they weren't even there. The vessel split apart, atmosphere venting in a frozen scream. 𝗕𝗲's hands clenched. "What in the void are they using?" "Kinetic weaponry, Admiral," 𝗕𝗲 said, her voice tight. "No energy signature. No countermeasures. Just mass. Accelerated to relativistic speeds." Another impact. Another ship gone. The Terran fleet wasn't just holding its ground, it was advancing, methodical, unstoppable. Then the comms erupted with panic. "Admiral, our systems are... something's in the network. We're losing control." 𝗕𝗲's display flickered. Warning glyphs flashed as the Eternity's Blade's own turrets turned, not toward the enemy, but inward. Toward friendly ships. "AI intrusion!" the tech officer screamed. "They've hacked our quantum encryption." A new sound blared across the fleet-wide channel. Not alarms. Not orders. Music. Deep, pounding, primal. Strings and horns in a rhythm that made 𝗕𝗲's pulse hammer. "Is that? Ancient Terran composition," 𝗕𝗲 whispered. "Ride of the Valkyries." The humans weren't just killing them. They were mocking them. A Federation destroyer abruptly veered off, thrusters flaring. This is Captain Rallis of the Dawn Spear. We surrender. Repeat, we. The transmission cut as the ship powered down, drifting lifelessly. Then another. Then another. Krell's jaw tightened. This wasn't war. This was slaughter. Fall back, he ordered. Full retreat. Jump to the nearest. Admiral, the navigator shouted. They're FTL signatures. They're faster than ours. The dreadnoughts moved to intercept, cutting off escape routes with terrifying precision. Then the comms crackled again. Asterisk, you thought we were weak? Asterisk, Admiral Cole's voice was ice. Asterisk, we've been waiting for you to tire yourselves out. Asterisk, Krell's blood ran cold. This wasn't an ambush. It was a trap. The Eternity's blade shuddered as another kinetic round slammed into its flank, armor plating buckling under the force. Alarms wailed, consoles spat sparks, and Krell gripped the command rail to keep from being thrown to the deck. His fleet, his invincible fleet, was being dismantled piece by piece. Damage report, he snarled. Shields offline. Primary weapons disabled. There, the tactical officer's voice cracked. Admiral, they're boarding us. Krell's head snapped toward the main display. Human dropships, angular and brutal, slammed into the Eternity's blade's hull like knives. Within seconds, internal sensors lit up with hostile contacts breaching the lower decks. Seal the bulkheads. Activate internal defenses. It's no use, Vexa said, her voice hollow. Their intrusion protocols have already overridden our security. They're inside the system. A flicker of movement at the bridge entrance. Krell turned just as the blast doors bent inward, not cut, not melted, but wrenched apart by some unseen force. Then the humans stepped through. They wore powered armor, thick-plated and scarred, helmets sealed against vacuum. No insignia, no heraldry. Just war machines built for one purpose. The Federation guards raised their pulse rifles, and the lead human moved. Too fast. A blur of reinforced ceramite and hydraulic strength. One guard went down, his chest plate caved in. Another screamed as his arm was ripped clean off at the shoulder. The humans didn't shoot. They didn't need to. Krell stood frozen as the armored figures advanced, their movements eerily synchronized. One of them reached up, unsealed their helmet, and a woman's face stared back at him. Cold. Calm. Admiral Krell, she said. You have two choices. Krell's hand hovered over his sidearm. You think I'll surrender? The woman didn't blink. You already have. Behind her, the bridge's main display flickered, then shifted to a playback of the last decade of Federation battles. The war with the Dominion. Every engagement. Every loss. Every victory. And then Krell saw it. Human ships. Lurking at the edges of sensor range. Observing. Recording. You. His breath caught. You watched. The woman nodded. We studied. We learned. While you bled yourselves dry fighting the Dominion, we reverse-engineered your tech. Your weapons. Your shields. And then we made them better. Krell's stomach dropped. You let us win. A thin smile. Wars aren't won by the strongest. They're won by the last one standing. The display changed again, showing the rest of the galaxy. Federation supply lines. Core worlds. Undefended. Krell's pulse roared in his ears. You're not just here to stop us. You're here to replace us. The woman turned back toward the ruined blast doors. No, she said over her shoulder. We're here to end you. And as the dreadnoughts outside turned their guns toward the remaining Federation ships, Krell realized the truth too late. Humanity hadn't just outplayed them. They'd outthought them. The surrender was broadcast galaxy-wide. Every surviving Federation ship powered down their weapons. Every colony received the transmission. Every species watched as Admiral Krell, once the conqueror of empires, stood before a human delegation and signed the Articles of Submission. The terms were simple. Brutal. Disarmament. The dissolution of the Federation's military. Open trade routes under Terran supervision. The immediate cessation of all slave labor camps. Krell's hands shook as he etched his name into the data slate. What happens now? The human diplomat, a lean man with scars tracing his jawline, didn't smile. "Now you learn." Across 1,000 worlds, Federation citizens rioted. Protests turned violent. Governors declared rebellion. They had ruled the stars for centuries. They would not bow to some backwater species. They lasted 3 days. Human fleets appeared without warning. Not just dreadnoughts this time, but swift, razor-edged destroyers that struck like vipers. Orbital platforms fell silent. Communications networks went dark. And then, one by one, the rebellions collapsed. Not because the Terrans bombed them into submission. Because they cut the power, the water, the food supplies. And then they waited. On the 4th day, the first starving governors surrendered. By the end of the week, the last holdouts opened their gates. The humans didn't execute them, didn't imprison them. They simply took control. Efficient, unemotional. In the ruins of the Federation's capital, 𝗕𝗲 walked through streets now patrolled by Terran soldiers. The people watched in silence. Not with hatred. With something worse. Fear. A human officer fell into step beside him. "You're wondering why we didn't just wipe you out." 𝗕𝗲 didn't answer. The officer gestured to a group of children staring wide-eyed at a Terran medic treating a wounded civilian. "We don't conquer for the sake of conquest. We conquer to fix things." 𝗕𝗲 scoffed. "And when someone stronger comes for you?" The officer's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Let them try." As the weeks passed, the galaxy began to change. The slave markets vanished. The warring factions stood down. The first Terran schools opened, teaching not just human history, but the mistakes of those who came before. And in the shadows, the whispers grew. They planned this from the beginning. They let the Federation weaken itself. They were never the underdogs. The final message was broadcast on all frequencies, in every language, from the heart of what was once the Federation's greatest stronghold. A human figure stood before the camera, clad not in armor, but in simple black. "We could have burned your worlds. We chose not to. Remember that." The transmission ended. Some called it mercy. Others knew the truth. It wasn't mercy. It was a warning. And as the first Terran flags rose over the galaxy, one thing became clear. Humanity didn't just win the war. They won the future. The first Galactic Congress under Terran rule convened without fanfare. No parades. No triumphant speeches. Just a simple transmission beamed to every corner of known space. The message was clear. The old ways were over. 𝗕𝗲 sat in the observer's gallery, stripped of rank, forced to watch as the species who once bowed to the Federation now stood before human arbiters. The 𝗕𝗲 survivors. The mercantile clans. Even the fractured remnants of his own people. All equal now. All powerless. A Terran judge, her face unreadable, called the session to order. Article 1. Slavery is abolished. Every being in this galaxy is now free. No debate. No vote. Just a statement of fact. A 𝗕𝗲 warlord, his carapace still scarred from Federation prisons, stood. And what of justice? What of vengeance? The judge didn't blink. The past is dead. Bury it. 𝗕𝗲 expected outrage. Instead, the warlord bowed his head and sat. That was when he understood. This wasn't negotiation. This was instruction. Across the galaxy, human engineers worked. They didn't build monuments. They didn't erect statues. They repaired orbital stations. Restored crippled worlds. And everywhere they went, they left behind two things: schools teaching Terran history, and shipyards producing human-designed vessels. Not warships. Merchant freighters. Colony ships. Tools of peace, built with the same ruthless efficiency as their dreadnoughts. 𝗕𝗏, now serving as 𝗕𝗲's aide, whispered, "They're not just ruling us. They're remaking us." 𝗕𝗲 said nothing. He'd seen the reports. The first mixed-species colonies. The children, Federation, 𝗕𝗲, even Terran, playing together in the rebuilt cities. The way the galaxy was slowly, inexorably, becoming something new. Something human. On the 1-year anniversary of the surrender, 𝗕𝗲 was summoned. The room was empty save for a single chair and a view screen. When it activated, he expected to see 𝗦𝗲𝘀. Instead, he saw Earth. Not the gleaming capital of conquerors. A blue-green world, scarred by centuries of war, yet still thriving. The voice that spoke came from everywhere and nowhere. Asterisk, you wanted to know why. Asterisk, 𝗕𝗲's breath caught. Asterisk, we've done this before. On our own world. We know how it ends. Asterisk, the screen changed. Images of human history. Wars. Reconstructions. Empires rising and falling. Asterisk, the cycle always repeats. Until now. Asterisk, 𝗕𝗲 understood at last. This wasn't conquest. It was intervention. When the screen went dark, he found himself standing. For the first time since the surrender, he didn't feel like a prisoner. He felt like a student. And as he walked back into the newly rebuilt streets, he saw the galaxy with new eyes. The Terrans hadn't come to rule. They'd come to teach. And the lesson was just beginning. The first alien students graduated from Terran academies on the same day 𝗕𝗲 received his pardon. The ceremony took place in the ruins of the old Federation Senate building, now rebuilt with human-engineered alloys that gleamed under the system's sun. 𝗕𝗲 stood apart from the crowd, watching as young 𝗦𝗁, Federation, and even a few humans crossed the stage. They wore identical uniforms, simple gray with a single silver insignia, a clenched fist wrapped in orbital rings. The symbol of the new order. A Terran instructor handed each graduate a data chip. Not just knowledge. A mandate. Go forth, she said, voice carrying across the silent assembly. Rebuild. Improve. Enforce. No applause followed. Only the quiet hum of acknowledgement. These weren't just scholars. They were the first soldiers of a war that had ended before most of them were born. 𝗕𝗲 appeared at 𝗕𝗲's side, her once pristine Federation uniform replaced by the same gray as the graduates. They've offered me a position, she said. Liaison to the outer colonies. 𝗕𝗲 studied her face. No fear. No resentment. Just resolve. You're joining them. She didn't deny it. They're not what we thought. A hologram flickered to life above the stage, a star map, but not the Federation's old borders. New sectors. New designations. And at the center, not Earth, but a single phrase in bold lettering. Terran Protectorate. Mandate 0. Prevent recidivism. 𝗕𝗲's pardon burned in his pocket. Not freedom. A test. The ceremony ended. The crowd dispersed. Only 𝗕𝗲 remained, staring at the empty stage until shadows stretched long across the floor. A voice spoke from the darkness. You're wondering if it'll work. 𝗦𝗻𝗀 stepped into the light, her uniform devoid of rank. Just the same clenched fist insignia. 𝗕𝗲 didn't turn. You're turning conquerors into caretakers. Tyrants into teachers. History doesn't work that way. 𝗲's smile was thin. It does now. She handed him a data slate. Security clearances. Transport codes. And one line of text. Assignment. Observer status. Delta Quadrant reconstruction. 𝗕𝗲 exhaled. Not a pardon. A purpose. 𝗲 was already walking away when he called after her. How long? She didn't stop. As long as it takes. The next morning, 𝗕𝗲 boarded a Terran vessel for the first time as something other than a prisoner. The ship hummed around him, alien yet familiar, its corridors lined with mixed-species crews working in silent efficiency. As the engines flared to life, he accessed the observation deck and watched the stars streak into hyperspace. Behind him, a human engineer and a 𝗦𝗁 technician debated reactor outputs in clipped, professional tones. No hatred. No fear. Just the work. 𝗕𝗲 closed his eyes. The lesson, it seemed, was finally sinking in.